Welcome to Lessons in Dyslexic Thinking, conversations with some of the world's most inspiring dyslexics, where we learn what dyslexic thinking is and how we can employ it to change the world. Today I'm joined by the star of Shark Tank and Queen of New York Real Estate, Barbara Corcoran.
Love that title.
It's a fantastic title, isn't it? Barbara, you started with a $1,000 loan and turned it into a $66 million real estate business by thinking differently. Since then, you've invested in 140 different businesses on Shark Tank, inspiring millions of people to tap into their own business potential. The second of 10 children who grew up in New Jersey, you have a wonderful quote which says, "I was the dumb girl in school because I couldn't learn to read words. I became the smart girl in business because I learned how to read people." Dyslexic thinking is all about reading people, so I'd really love to know more about your dyslexic thinking skills and how it's helped you to succeed.
Oh, well, it's the whole reason I succeeded. First of all, I was thankful to get out of that jailhouse called a school that the other kids liked that I sure didn't like. And so I was so thankful to have jobs and really thankful to start my own business because I could fashion a world entirely what I wanted. Nobody could tell me what to do. Nobody could tell me what colors to pick, what people to choose, what kind of business I was going to be in. I was free to do anything because I was dyslexic. So you wrote your own bill of goods, so to speak. I think if I didn't have the insecurity that you accumulate when you're a kid in school with the pain that goes with being different from the other kids, I don't think you get the same motivation or the ability to deal with rejection the way you do if you're dyslexic. It prepares you for life and gives you some of the most important skills. It's just too bad nobody tells you when you're a kid that this stuff is going to wind up good. But it certainly does.
Yeah, it's so important to focus on the strengths. And also, I think as dyslexics, because we're masters at failure, it means that we don't have that same sort of feeling of knockback. I think it enables us to really push forward. And it sounds like it's definitely given you the drive to do that.
Well, when you fail early at something, and something so important as school, which is how children define themselves until they get out of school, that's kind of the definition of who they are. Failing is like second nature. You almost build up a hard crust that it just doesn't bother you. I always like to think of myself as a jack in the box. You know, you hit me on the head, and then I bounce up, and I say, "Hit me again." Most people would say that's stupid, but I say that's a gift, that you can take that hit again and again and again, because it's no big deal. You've been doing that since you're a little kid.
Yeah, it's a fantastic asset and thing that we build up.
Only in hindsight, I might add, and there's the rub.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say to kids at school about failure and how important failure is, or people who are starting a business? Because entrepreneurs, we all fail, don't we? It's something that happens. And I know that Richard Branson and all of the people we've interviewed talk about failure being important. What would you say to people about failure?
Well, failure, if you want to get ahead in life, is half of what life is. If you don't know how to fail and get back up, you don't move ahead in anything. So it's the greatest attribute to have. But I don't think you could tell kids to be happy about failure, because at the moment it's happening, it feels really lousy. You certainly don't feel good about yourself. But as long as when you grow up, you're able to then start to realize what a gift you have. I think that's when you start feeling a little bit better. But even that takes a lot of years to uproot and feel good about, I think.
Yeah, certainly. And what does success mean to you? I think a lot of people think success is about being successful financially, but is it more than that to you?
Well, it's part of it. I mean, I have enough money to do whatever I want. That's nice. You know, I'm not going to send it back, I don't think. Okay. But what the important part of success for me is I've changed lives. I've built careers for thousands of people, half of them dyslexic, because I was in the sales field, and boy, is that a great field if you're dyslexic. So I made a huge difference in so many people's lives. I proved to be a great leader. They adored me. I adored them. We had a rich life, and we almost did a fairy tale story all together. I mean, what could be more satisfying than that? I think if at the point I sold my business, I would have dropped dead, I think I would have been pretty happy anyway. Because I feel, hey, look what I did. I'm okay. Dying young, you know? Yeah, that's the greatest satisfaction for me.
And I think building teams and people skills are so vital for business or any job as well. And that's something that is a dyslexic thinking skill. Do you think you've always been good at that, or is it something that you learned when you started business?
No, I've always been great with people. You know, you get a couple of other little treats when you're dyslexic. One is you are naturally enormously empathetic. That's a great people building skill. And teams, I mean, unless you want a business of one, just you making shoes or something, you have to be good with people. You build business on people. There's nothing else, really. And so if you can spot a person, identify their talent very quickly, because you're empathetic and sympathetic, you can build a huge business on the skills of so many different people with different skills. And so teammanship and the ability to lead a team and pick the right people and motivate them the right way is all part of what you get, I think, with the downside of being dyslexic, not being good with books or numbers or digits. But you could hire people for that stuff. That's the boring stuff anyway. You don't want to be doing that all day. You get to do the fun stuff with the people and the creative stuff with the design and the daydreaming and visualizing where you want to go. I mean, that's all the fun part of building a business. I got more A students working for my company that are great with numbers, great with digits. They could do it. I don't want it.
Yeah, it's the thing, isn't it? Delegating. I think that's the other thing we've become very good at, because what we're good at, we're very good at, but what we're bad at, we're also really bad at it. So delegating is, there'll always be somebody else who's fantastic at the things that we can't do. So what do you think your dyslexic challenges are?
Oh, today?
Do you still
minimized compared to what they were when I was younger, but they never leave you. I mean, early injury injures, I believe, for life. You develop coping mechanisms. You compensate for what you don't have. So I can't read something quickly, or sometimes not at all. I can't understand something that I should understand, even related to my business, if I'm reading it. But show me a picture, I get the whole thing. You know, boom, I got it, snapshot, I got it, let's go, you know. The biggest challenge I have is erasing the damn tape in my head. The tape that was given to me by the teachers, the adults, the other kids, the tape that says, you're not smart, you're not going to do it, you can't read this, you better not fail publicly, you better shut your mouth, you better hide, you better And all those tapes are so ingrained by the time you're like in your young 20s, that is you. And so I spent from 20 to 60 ripping out those roots of those tapes and replacing with a new tape of who I was as an adult. And the person I am as an adult is, Barbara, you're amazing. You're incredible. You're gorgeous. You're smart. You're so gifted. You know, I've had to replace all that stuff, but still on a doubting day where I'm not well prepared, or I'm intimidated by someone who graduated from Harvard, or whatever my whole list of stupid stuff is, I still get that tape kicking back in, and I have to get out my knife and kill it, and replace it with the new tape that I know so well. So it never really leaves you. But I'll tell you, there's an upside to that even. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you trying hard. You can't just accomplish what you've accomplished and sit back and enjoy it. Well, I guess that would be nice. Maybe I should try to do that more. But what it does is it pushes you to prove again and again and again. I sometimes think my whole career was one giant attempt to prove to Sister Stella Marie that I am not stupid. Just from that day she called me stupid, I want to prove again and again I am not stupid. And so that really never leaves you.
And how do you think you do sort of kill those negative thoughts? Do you have a sort of system for doing it that would be helpful for others to know?
Yeah, you exit out in your head. The minute it creeps in, you put I see it in my head, a visual red X. I put it out in my head. And I ignore it, and I realize I'm willful enough to conquer it, because I am. You know, you just have to declare the battle immediately on it versus give it a little time, maybe work it out later. No, it's a war. It's a war against it. And so I use my big red X to knock it out.
And then do you replace it with something else?
Sure. All the best compliments. I mean, I have beautiful eyes. I've got great legs. I'm charming.
You definitely are. No,
I got a good people sense. I know how to make money. I mean, I got a long list. But it's amazing. Those are all replacement words, right? That I mean, that I acknowledge is true. Probably maybe even exaggerated. But those early words are very dominant, and you really have to declare war on them.
Yes, psychologists say that for every negative comment, you need 6 positive comments to actually counteract it when you're a child. So it does.
But
it
no
does run deep.
psychiatrists are dyslexic, I don't think. Easy for them to say.
Yeah.
Hard to do.
So whilst we're on the subject of school, if I can take you back to, say, age 7 to 10, who was Barbara? What were you like? What would
Oh.
your school report have said about you?
Oh, well, what everyone in school always told my mother is she's a lovely child, really, which is nice, but she's not very smart. That was accepted because the proof of the lack of intelligence was on the report card. I became an expert at turning an F into an A until my parents saw through that one pretty fast. But in school, you know what you're doing as a little kid, I think, is sizing yourself up, and your barometer is the kid next door sitting next to you in the desk. And if he could have the answers, bright as could be, have the answers, and you never have the answers, you become quiet. I think that's very common with girls. I wasn't a rabble-rouser. I was just enormously quiet, hoping nobody would ever call on me. My idea of hell on earth, which I learned very early and learned shame in the classroom, so painful for a young kid, is to be asked to read out loud. To be asked to read out loud. I mean, I still can't talk about it, Just, you're stuttering, and everybody's, hey, laughing around you. It's very, very hurtful.
Yeah, and I remember that too, and they still do it today. I remember
No,
that
please tell me kids are
they still do in
more
schools.
aware, maybe.
I think, well, it does still happen in
Wow.
some schools, which
Take
is a
the
shame.
kid out of school. Put him on an
change-
island with animals and bees. He'll be the smartest kid there.
Yeah, or change the school so we don't do those sorts of things, and we are doing
It's
the
a
positive
hard thing.
things. Yeah.
It's a hard thing.
It is
Peer
hard.
pressure is here, whether we manage it in school better or not. Peers are peers. That's the way it goes.
And when you were at school, did you recognize your people skills and all the amazing things that you're good at? Did you know that you had those strengths?
I did on some level because of my mother, who was a phenomenal mother. When I got back home from school, I very often was crying or would stick my thermometer in her instant coffee in the morning to get a fever so I didn't have to go to school. I had every trick in
I
the
did
book.
that too.
Oh, you did too?
I did.
But sometimes I went to 105.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull it out. 1, 2, 3 seconds. Pull it out. It's 101 every time, right?
Mm.
My mother was my savior. When I would come home from school, very teary-eyed and feeling so defeated, my mother would constantly tell me I was a genius. A genius. That's an odd word to use on a kid. She'd say, "You're a genius. You have a wonderful imagination, and with it, you learn to fill in all the blanks." And that was really true. I did learn to fill in all the blanks, and I kind of believed her because of her faithfulness to me. But I also had one great thing that happened to me as a kid that I think was as important as my mother believing in me. I was very good at drawing, and I could draw chalk games on the street where all the kids played. And every kid drew chalk games, but they didn't draw them the way I drew them. I had massive snails that went for sometimes 2 blocks, intricacies, certain bends. You had to do different things on every square you landed on. I never ran out of ideas. And all the kids played on my game, not the other kids' game. And so they all wanted to go next. Can I play? Can I play? And so I was enormously popular as the gamesman in my town. And I continued that for years and years. And I think I got great confidence out of that. So while I was in school all day daydreaming and not listening to a thing that everybody else was learning, I was thinking of what I was going to do with my snail at the end of school that day. What could I add? What colored chalk would I use? All this intricacy. And in a real way, now I look back, it was like building a business. I should have charged for the entry fee. I could have been an entrepreneur at like 8 if I had been giving it a little bit more thought then, But that was instrumental in discovering one thing you do well, because that's really all you need in life. You just need one thing. You don't have to be good at everything. You just need one thing you could make a phenomenal life around. And as a kid, I made it around the chalk games. And as an adult, I made it around the real estate business. One thing only. That's all I needed. How delicious is that?
It's an amazing piece of advice for kids at school like you who are struggling and really not knowing how to get past the shame and the embarrassment of being dyslexic that they feel. So it's a lovely, lovely piece of advice. And do you think your mum was dyslexic? She seems that she was very in tune with what you were feeling.
No, odd. My mother and father were great students. They were phenomenal students. They graduated from high school with A's. With our family, the 10 children, 3 of us were dyslexic, my 2 brothers and myself. All the other kids never opened a book, got A's. I couldn't stand it. So I don't know where we got that dyslexic gene from. With my 2 children, both are dyslexic. What's the odds on that working out? And my husband, Bill, was a phenomenal student. So you never know. Crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your kids, have they done okay in school? Did they feel that they struggled, or were you their champion as well?
Oh, of course I was their champion, but what a wonderful role model I had in my mother. You know, my son Tommy is 29, has his own business, thank God. I think having your own business is almost always the best way to go, because you only need one thing that you do well, and you could build a business around it. And my daughter is only 17, so she's still in school. She's not a good student. My son wasn't a good student, but my son developed coping skills and graduated from an Ivy League school near the top of his class. So he learned to beat it better than I ever did. And my daughter struggles more than I did. But let me tell you, it's a game of keeping the ego intact, confidence intact. So I just made sure I found things that they could succeed with. Small things, big things, all the time. Try this, try this, try this, try this. And most importantly, teach the lesson that what was important is trying, not succeeding. You just have to get in the habit of trying. If you have the confidence that you are always the person that's going to stand up and try harder than the next guy, you'll be successful. So you can make a habit of trying as a dyslexic without succeeding. And if you accept that you just are always that type that keeps trying, you have formed a habit of successful life. There's no way people can put you down once you get out there because you just keep showing up. There's something great about showing up, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is about hard work, trying hard, making sure you put the extra effort in, isn't it? And that's
not licking your wounds when it doesn't work out, because most things don't work out. It's the way it is. But finding the one thing you do well. For me, it was my chalk games, my mom. Thank God they were in my corner.
Yeah, I think that's lovely advice for parents, because often they can get so het up about their kids not doing well in school, and it's so important just to find that thing you're good at and focus on the strengths that they have to keep their confidence as intact as you possibly can.
Oh, very much so.
And in terms of your dyslexic thinking, are there any other areas that you think it's that your dyslexia has helped you?
Oh, definitely. There's one gift that you always get with dyslexia, because I know so many dyslexic people who own businesses, and also contributes to why they do so well in their own shop. And that is the ability to see from the sky down. I have that gift. I had it as a kid. I have it as an adult. I would go into a business meeting. I don't care who I was with. I would have an idea, boom, seen in my head as I was flying in the sky. Look down and see who was going to do what, how the department was going to open, how we were going to make money, how many months it was going to take without knowing any math or anything. And I would make my estimate accurate every time because I had the ability to see from the sky down. And you know, some of the best coaches in the world are dyslexic because if you interview them, and maybe you have, they talk about being able to see the team from the sky down, or maybe different words but the same effect.
Helicopter view.
Helicopter view? Is there a word for that? Helicopter view?
I know a lot of people refer it to.
Oh, you have heard that. Okay, so I'm not crazy thinking that. But it would sometimes startle me as to how well I could see it and in living color. And it's also good for dreaming. You know, I don't think back at that time in school daydreaming from 8:30 in the morning till 3:15 when that bell rung. I don't see that as a waste of time. I spent the whole day daydreaming. So I have a fertile imagination. And that sky down, or as you call it, the helicopter thinking, is about your imagination. You could just imagine it. The first day I picked up the phone in my own business and answered Corcoran Simone, boom, I had an image of myself. So clear I could taste it. I could see myself as the queen of New York real estate. People kissing my ring, having beautiful clothes on, everybody wondering what I had to say. And what do you think I did? I built exactly that person for myself. But could I have done it if I hadn't seen the view of it, the whole view in living color, never. I think that daydreaming ability to see a whole picture versus the digits or the numbers gets you so much further than seeing the detail. You don't have to be good at the detail if you can see the whole picture.
Yeah, so it's a very common dyslexic entrepreneur's
Happy
trait.
to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a real gift of being, it's almost like being able to see the future, isn't it? That you can predict the way things are going to go.
Well, then they put you in jail for being a cookie or an institution. No, yeah. But you know where that is so powerful in building a business is you can see a person and you could see them in the role you envision them in and how you could use them. I don't mean in a bad way, but how you use them in your organizational structure. And it gives you limitless strength in hiring people, I think. Yeah, I'm a very accurate hirer. Yeah, I'm never surprised by people on who I hire and what they do. Never surprised.
Yeah, it's an amazing gift. And Shark Tank, obviously you're a presenter and TV personality as well. Do you think dyslexia has helped you with that? Because I think most of the sharks are dyslexic, aren't they?
3 are, yeah. Kevin is. He wouldn't admit it, but he is. Damon talks about it openly, and I am. So that's 3 out of 5. But the richest shark is not dyslexic. He's not dyslexic, which is Mark Cuban. Too bad.
Yeah,
He'd be a great poster boy.
3 out of 4 is not bad, is it?
Yeah.
And do you think your dyslexia has helped you to become that TV personality as well? Because communicating is a skill that we often have.
Yeah, what the best card for me on Shark Tank is my empathy. I can slip right into that entrepreneur's shoes, and I could also see through a phony right away. I can see what doesn't fit the picture, so to speak. Like, I'm not even quite sure why it's not registering, but I've learned to trust my gut because I get a whole picture, whole feeling, and I either go or I don't. So no, it's a shortcut on Shark Tank if you have that ability, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And do you think the other sharks have it as well, or is that your MasterCard?
No, I think everybody's good with people if they're good in business. So it's not the exclusive territory of dyslexic people, but it's an advantage I have, no doubt.
Amazing. So we started with your amazing quote. Can we end with a quote? Maybe if you had some advice that you would give to a kid at school or somebody who's dyslexic who's just starting out in business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give to them?
I tell them the hard part is behind them. Get out of that school, leave it behind, and forget everything you didn't learn there, and just learn on your own terms. I would also say start your own business, if at all possible. There's nothing more satisfying than building your own world when you haven't fit into somebody else's, and to be the boss and decide what it's going to look like. So satisfying. What an effect you could have in your life and how much happiness it would bring you. Forget about what went on there. It's over. It's about going forward and using it to your advantage. That's not a quote. It's a whole paragraph.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to end, though. Fantastic advice. Thank you, Barbara. That's amazing.
You are welcome.
Join me next time when I'll be talking to the former director of British intelligence agency GCHQ, Sir Jeremy Fleming, and 2 dyslexic spies in the field about how dyslexic thinking keeps the country safe.